Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. She said it like it was a joke. At Applebee's, right in front of her friends. Maybe we should just break up, she laughed, sipping her pink cocktail while the others burst out laughing. I froze for a second, holding the fork halfway to my mouth. The words didn't hit all at once. They slid in slow, like ice under skin. The waitress glanced at me, sensing something shift in the air. I didn't say a word. I just set the fork down and looked at her. One calm look, no expression, and for some reason, that made her laughter stop. The night went on like nothing happened. Her friends giggled, joked, whispered into their phones. I paid the bill, left a decent tip, and said only one thing before leaving the table: drive safe. That's it. No tone, no hint of anger, just distance. When I got home, I sat in silence, staring at the empty couch. Her purse was on the counter, her iPhone lighting up with group chat notifications. I saw the name Girls' Dinner Crew flash again and again. I didn't read anything, but I already knew what they were saying. That it was a prank, that it was hilarious, that I probably looked so serious. She came home an hour later smelling like cheap perfume and Starbucks. "It was just a joke, babe," she said from the hallway. I didn't look up. I didn't need to. Something in me switched off completely. The sound of her voice no longer reached me the same way. That night, she kept checking her phone, probably expecting me to react, to argue, to demand an apology. But I didn't. I brushed my teeth, turned off the lights, and went to bed early. Silence became my answer. By morning, I was already out, coffee in a paper cup, engine running, driving nowhere. I parked behind a Target, just sitting there, watching people move through their normal lives. They all seemed free, light, untouched. I hadn't felt that way in years. Later that day, she texted me a photo of her laughing with her friends from the night before. "We didn't mean it. You're too serious." I stared at the message for a while. Then I typed one thing: "I'm not mad. I just don't find you funny anymore." And I hit send. That was the first crack. She didn't realize it yet, but something irreversible had started. Not between us, but inside me. She thought she was playing a game. She had no idea the game was already over. The next morning, everything looked normal, but nothing felt the same. She made pancakes, humming to a song from her phone, pretending like last night never happened. I sat at the table, scrolling through emails on my MacBook, my face calm, my movements measured. She kept glancing at me, waiting for a reaction that never came. That was the first time I saw confusion in her eyes instead of control. At work, I couldn't focus. Not because of anger, but because of how quiet it had become inside me. That kind of silence doesn't come from peace. It comes from realizing something's dead. A friend from the office, Mark, stopped by my desk, joking about relationship games. He said his wife showed him a video on TikTok, some trend where women fake breakups to see their man's reaction. "Guess it's a thing now," he laughed. I didn't. That's when I knew exactly what had happened. It wasn't just a prank. It was something she rehearsed, recorded, planned, with her friends watching. That night, she was on FaceTime in the living room. I heard her friend Emily's voice through the speaker. "He barely reacted. You should have filmed it." Laughter followed. I walked past them, silent, and took my keys from the counter. She asked where I was going. I said I needed some air. I didn't tell her I was driving to the one place she never followed me, an old Waffle House off Route 19. I sat there for an hour, drinking black coffee, replaying every word from that dinner. Every laugh, every look. I realized how much of my life had turned into a performance for someone else's audience. And the audience wasn't even kind. When I came home, she was on the couch, half asleep, Netflix still playing. Her phone buzzed, lighting up with another group chat. I didn't touch it, but I saw enough on the lock screen. "Did he say anything?" Followed by a row of laughing emojis. My chest went cold. I didn't feel hurt, just detached, like watching something burn from far away. That night, I didn't sleep next to her. I moved to the guest room, told her I had an early meeting. She didn't argue. Maybe she thought it would blow over. But I had already started leaving, quietly, without a suitcase, without a word. The next day, I deleted her from my social media, not blocked, just erased. Her photos vanished, our anniversary posts gone. It wasn't revenge. It was preparation. I wasn't planning to confront her anymore. I was planning to disappear. Over the next few days, I stopped talking unless I had to. She filled the silence with small talk, pretending to fix what she didn't understand was already broken. Every morning she brewed coffee in her favorite Starbucks tumbler, scrolling Amazon like she always did, laughing at things I couldn't hear. It was routine, her safe space. But now I saw it differently. Every sound, every habit, every careless laugh, it all felt rehearsed, artificial. On the third day, I noticed her phone buzzing while she was in the shower. I didn't mean to look, but one message stood out on the lock screen. It was from Emily again. He's so quiet. Did he finally get the joke? My stomach didn't drop. It just settled into something heavier, colder. That one text confirmed what I already knew. They didn't regret it. They thought they'd won. That evening, I came home later than usual. She asked if I was okay, her voice sweet, but off-key. I said I was fine. Then I opened my laptop and started checking through shared accounts. Our joint Amazon orders, shared playlists, cloud backups. Everything told me the same story. Her phone was full of shared photos, voice memos, and private group videos. The kind that didn't belong to us anymore. I didn't explode. I didn't even confront her. I just saved what mattered and logged out. My face didn't change. My movement stayed calm. But inside, I had made a decision. The next morning, I left before sunrise. She called twice, then texted that she was worried. I didn't respond. Instead, I went to a small diner across from a Walmart parking lot and watched people walk in and out. They all looked ordinary, but somehow more alive than we'd been in months. I realized that the most dangerous thing isn't betrayal. It's being turned into a joke in the eyes of someone you trusted. When I finally came home, she tried to lighten the mood again. "You're scaring me with all this silence," she said. I looked at her for a long moment and said, "Silence is safer than what you call fun." She didn't laugh. Later that night, she sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone. No more laughter. No more texts. Something in her was starting to sense it, the shift she couldn't control. She didn't know it yet, but she was already losing her audience. I had all the proof I needed, but I wasn't going to use it. I was going to vanish instead. And she'd have no idea when it happened, only that it did. The day I disappeared started like any other. She was standing by the kitchen counter, hair tied up, scrolling her iPhone while the coffee maker hissed in the background. She looked peaceful, unaware. I watched her for a moment, not with anger, but with clarity. I realized there was nothing left to fix, nothing left to say. So I didn't. I left my wallet, keys, and ring on the table, everything except my truck keys. My Ford F-150 was already packed the night before with a duffel bag, laptop, and a few clothes. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't even close it loudly. The quiet was more powerful. By noon, she was calling, then texting. At first, it was confusion. "Where are you?" Then worry. "Please, just answer." Then fear. Did I go too far? I didn't read most of them. My phone stayed face down on the passenger seat while the miles rolled by. I stopped at a motel 2 towns over, small and anonymous. The kind of place where no one asks questions. I sat on the bed and turned off every notification. The room smelled like bleach and old air conditioning, but it was freedom. I opened my laptop and watched as she posted a photo on Instagram. A throwback of us smiling at the beach, captioned, "Miss this." The comments filled with sympathy and heart emojis. She was performing again, but this time the stage felt smaller. Meanwhile, I went quiet. I deleted my social media, shut off location sharing, closed our joint accounts. Every trace of me started to fade, one login at a time. I didn't block her calls. I let them ring out. The silence would do more damage than any argument could. By the third day, her friends were messaging me directly. Emily said, "She's freaking out. Just talk to her." Another text followed. It was supposed to be a joke. That word, supposed, made me laugh for the first time in weeks. I didn't reply. I spent the next morning sitting outside a Target with a coffee, watching people go in and out, each one lost in their own small routines. That's when it hit me. I wasn't disappearing out of pain. I was detaching out of peace. I was taking back the part of me that stopped existing the moment she turned love into entertainment. She wanted attention. What she got was silence. 3 days turned into a week. I hadn't spoken to her once. I checked my phone only when I needed directions. Every other message was her, dozens of missed calls, long texts that started with excuses and ended with apologies. The tone had changed from defensive to desperate. That was when I knew the silence was working. From a distance, I started noticing the cracks forming around her life. Emily's name stopped appearing on her posts. Their inside jokes were gone. Even her social circle started shifting, like people stepping away from a slow-burning fire. I didn't post anything, but I saw enough through mutual contacts to know she was losing ground socially, and fast. I spent my mornings in small diners and coffee shops, eating alone, reading news I didn't care about. The noise of strangers was easier to live with than her voice in my head. Sometimes I'd see couples laughing together and feel a strange mix of relief and disgust. Relief that I was out of it, disgust that I ever thought I had to perform to be loved. By the second week, I got a message from a mutual friend, Jake. He said, "You should know, she's been trying to reach you through everyone. She looks bad, man. She's not herself." I thanked him and said nothing more. It wasn't satisfaction I felt, it was distance. The kind that comes when you realize you've finally stepped outside the circle of someone's chaos. One afternoon, I was walking through a Walmart parking lot, and I saw her car. That same blue Toyota Camry she used to drive everywhere, spotless as always. She was sitting inside, looking at her phone, waiting for me. I didn't stop. I walked past slowly, keeping my eyes ahead. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't shake. She didn't notice me until I was already gone. That night, she posted another story, just a dark screen with the caption, "You never know what you had until it's gone." It wasn't for her followers. It was for me. But I was past reacting. The power she once had was gone. Instead of blocking her, I muted everything. She could scream into the digital void all she wanted. The difference now was that no one was listening. I hadn't destroyed her life. I had just stopped participating in it. And that was enough. A month had passed since the night at Applebee's, but it felt like another lifetime. I had moved into a small apartment above a hardware store near the edge of town. It wasn't much, just a couch, a mattress on the floor, and a single lamp, but it was mine. No noise, no games, no background laughter. I'd wake early, make coffee in silence, and sit by the window watching people rush to work. That stillness had weight. It made me realize how long I'd been living on emotional autopilot. She didn't stop trying. Messages kept coming. First long, then short, then angry. "You're acting childish. We need to talk. I can't sleep without you." But she didn't understand that her voice no longer reached where I was. It's not that I stopped caring. It's that I stopped depending. Then came the day everything shifted for her. I heard it from Jake again. Apparently, one of her videos leaked in a private group chat. Not the prank itself, but the behind-the-scenes clip. Emily had filmed her laughing about it, saying how he looked so lost. Someone shared it, and it spread fast. Her coworkers saw it. Her family too. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't need to. What she had built on mockery collapsed under its own weight. Jake said people were calling her cold, manipulative. Even Emily had gone quiet. The same people who once encouraged her were now avoiding her. "You really thought no one would notice?" Someone had written under one of her posts before she deleted her account. I sat there reading the message, sipping my coffee from a paper cup, and felt nothing. No joy, no revenge. Just the simple understanding that everything evens out when you stop chasing balance. A week later, she sent me a long email. She said she missed the way I looked at her, the way I used to make her feel safe. She said she never meant to hurt me. I didn't respond. I didn't even finish reading it. I closed the laptop, got in my Ford F-150, and drove to the coast. That night, I sat by the ocean, the sound of waves mixing with the wind. The peace wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, steady, final. She wanted control through laughter. What she found was silence that echoed louder than any words. She thought I'd come back once the storm cleared. But what she didn't know was that I'd already found calm on the other side of it. She started showing up in places she never used to go. I'd see her name pop up in the People You May Know section of random social apps under new accounts. Once, I walked into a Starbucks near the beach, and there she was, sitting by the window, pretending not to see me. She looked smaller somehow, her posture curved inward, no makeup, dark circles under her eyes. I ordered my coffee, nodded politely, and left without a word. That one look told her everything she needed to know. She no longer had access. After that day, she began reaching out through others. Emily texted again, saying she was worried about her. Jake said she'd been calling him late at night. asking if I'd met someone else. I hadn't. I wasn't looking to replace her. I was learning how to be complete alone. That's something she never understood. Peace doesn't come from attention. It comes from distance. She moved out of our old apartment soon after. I didn't ask where she went, but I saw her posting from smaller spaces, a friend's couch, maybe a rental. The backgrounds in her photos changed, but her captions didn't. They were always the same mix of regret and longing. Trying to heal, finding myself. Forgiveness is a process. But healing doesn't start when you post about it. It starts when no one's watching. One night, she finally called from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. Instead, I listened to the voicemail after it ended. Her voice was shaking. She said, "I don't know how to fix this. I can't sleep. I just need you to talk to me." There was no laughter left. No audience. Just raw, frightened quiet. For a moment, I almost felt something. Then it passed. I realized she wasn't missing me. She was missing the version of herself that existed when I was around. The one who felt loved no matter what she did. Without that reflection, she didn't know who she was. That night, I walked along the pier, the sky heavy with clouds, thinking about how some endings don't come with closure. They just fade into silence. She was alone now, but it wasn't punishment. It was consequence. She had built her world on laughter at someone else's expense. Now she was learning how heavy silence feels when it finally turns back on you. A few weeks later, she finally found me. I was standing outside a Home Depot, picking up some supplies for the apartment, when I heard my name. That voice I once knew by heart. I turned, and there she was, hesitant, tired, holding a cup of Dunkin' coffee with both hands like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. She looked older, not in years, but in weight. The kind of wear that comes from too many sleepless nights. She said she'd been looking for me everywhere. I stayed silent. The sound of traffic filled the space between us. She stepped closer, searching for something in my eyes that wasn't there anymore. She said she just wanted to talk, to explain, to start over. Her voice trembled, but I didn't move. I let her speak. She said it had all been stupid. The prank, the laughter, the video. She said she didn't realize what she was losing until it was already gone. Her hands shook when she spoke, and for a second, I remembered the warmth that used to exist between us, the softness, the trust. But that memory felt distant now, like something I'd read in a book years ago. When she finished, there was a long silence. She looked at me like she was waiting for forgiveness. I said only one thing. "You didn't lose me because of a joke. You lost me because you turned me into one." Her eyes filled, and she nodded slowly, like she'd been expecting it. She tried to touch my arm, but I stepped back. I wasn't angry. I was done. That's a different kind of power, when you don't need to prove a thing. I told her I hoped she'd find peace, but I couldn't be part of her search. Then I walked away. No raised voice, no goodbye, just distance. When I got back to my truck, she was still standing there in the parking lot, motionless, the wind pulling at her hair. I started the engine and watched her fade in the rearview mirror. That moment wasn't victory. It was release. The final severing of the thread she kept trying to pull me back with. She thought I would give her closure. But closure isn't given. It's taken. And that day, I took mine by walking away without turning back. After that day in the parking lot, I didn't see her again for a while. The silence between us grew into something solid, something that no message or apology could break through. I didn't block her number, but I stopped checking my phone. When I did, I'd see short messages, sent late at night, usually after midnight. "I can't stop thinking about what you said. I miss who we were. Please just answer once." The words had no effect anymore. They felt like echoes bouncing off a wall I'd already built. Life started to settle into rhythm. I worked, I cooked for myself, I drove to Waffle House on weekends, sitting in the same corner booth I used to take her to. The waitress remembered me and asked if everything was all right. I just nodded. There was no story I wanted to tell. I didn't need sympathy or validation. I had my peace, and it was enough. Then one evening, Jake called. He said she'd been having a hard time, that she'd lost her job after the video resurfaced in the office chat, that some people had started avoiding her altogether. "She's not the same," he said quietly. I could hear the concern in his voice, but I stayed silent. He added, "She asked me to tell you she's sorry. She said she'd do anything just to talk." I thanked him and hung up. That night, I sat in the dark with the TV off, staring at nothing. I wasn't angry. but there was a strange heaviness that wouldn't leave. I thought about how quickly a person can go from mocking love to mourning it. How easily laughter can turn to silence when the wrong person walks away. Later that week, I saw her by accident again. It was at Walmart. She was in one of the aisles, holding a few groceries, standing alone. When she noticed me, her face froze. For a second, I saw a spark of hope, and then, when I didn't move toward her, it faded. She looked down, almost hiding behind the cart. I passed by without a word. She didn't follow. As I walked out to the parking lot, I realized something. Her downfall wasn't because of what she did to me. It was because she kept performing for a crowd that no longer existed. She had built her world on attention. Now, attention was gone, and all she had left was herself, and the silence she once mocked. It was late fall when I saw her for the last time. I had stopped by a quiet diner near the coast, the kind of place where the jukebox still worked and the coffee was always burning hot. I was sitting by the window when she walked in. She looked hesitant, thinner, her hair tied back, no makeup. She spotted me and froze, like she'd been rehearsing this moment, but suddenly forgot all the lines. She took a slow breath and walked over. I didn't tell her to sit down, but she did anyway. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence between us felt heavier than ever, not angry, just final. She said she'd been in therapy, that she'd stopped drinking, stopped going out with the girls. She said she understood now how cruel that night had been. She looked straight at me and said she was sorry. Not like before, not in words meant to fix things, but in the voice of someone who'd finally felt the cost of her own choices. I let her speak until her voice started to tremble. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, that she just wanted me to know she wasn't that person anymore. I looked at her and said quietly, "I don't hate you. I just outgrew the version of me that tolerated that kind of love." Her eyes filled instantly. She reached across the table, her hand shaking, but I didn't take it. Not out of cruelty, out of truth. We sat there for a while, the sound of plates clattering and rain starting to fall outside. There was nothing left to argue about, nothing left to prove. She said she missed the way I used to look at her. I told her that man doesn't exist anymore. The one who forgave everything, who kept waiting for her to change, he was gone. When I stood up to leave, she asked if there was any chance for us again. I said maybe, but not the way it was. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. I left a few bills on the table, nodded to the waitress, and walked out into the rain. I didn't look back this time. I didn't need to. She wasn't chasing me, and I wasn't running anymore. The silence that once suffocated me now felt like peace. Some endings don't explode. They dissolve quietly, leaving only clarity behind. And in that clarity, I found everything I'd been missing. Myself. Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories.